Oh, by the way, while I was there, I decided to get a massage. And because there were rules, it had to be a man massaging me, which was fine until he said, "It's all right, sir. Men often get an erection during a massage." I said, "I don't have an erection." He said, "No, but I do."
Hey everybody, my next guest is a very funny comedian who has been performing all over New York and has become a staple right here on Long Island. His observational comedy and one-liner delivery has truly made him a standout above the rest. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Art Schill. Art, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good for a man my age this time of day. Like I always say, if my body knew how good I felt, I'd be in great shape.
Yeah, now you are an older guy, and you basically had a career before this career. You were like
I still have a career besides this career.
Yeah, what are you doing now? What are you still doing?
Same company I was with for 30 years. I'm a partner in a company. It's a search firm, but the difference between what we do and what the typical headhunter does, the headhunter works for the company looking for people. We help people find jobs.
Oh,
they
cool.
pay us to help them rather than the company paying us.
Right. That's terrific. So you spent your career helping people get jobs. That's awesome.
Well, for the last 30 years anyway. Before that, I had my own company. It was an IT company back when we used an abacus. Because I'm a technical dinosaur, very honestly.
But do you notice now, you hear all these things about jobs and that the government's paying people to stay home. What do you think about that whole thing as a guy who helps people get jobs?
I think one of the problems people are having, very honest, or companies are having, very honestly, is that too many people are getting so much money from the government, they don't see any reason to go to work. But I think what's going to happen is, as companies realize that the people can work just as effectively from home as they can from their office, you're going to find people working a hybrid of days in the office, days at home. And a lot of other people will be working strictly from home, remotely.
Yeah, I
think a lot of the office buildings, I already read about them, are going to convert to apartment houses. How they're going to do that, I have no idea without the bathrooms. But,
Right. Yeah, it's crazy times. And for you, you've been around, and that's one of the advantages you have to the most of us, is that you've have all this life experience. But seeing the world change like this so fast and so dramatically, what's your thoughts on that? Like, especially, the current day. Like, did you ever think you'd see the day where people want to work remotely from home and office buildings would be turning into apartment buildings?
I think people have been working remotely from home for a very long time. I know our company has been allowing our people. We only have our corporate headquarters in Denver. I used to have a suite of offices at 30 Rock. You can imagine what the cost of that was.
Wow, yeah.
So we've cut out the brick and mortar costs. People like it because they're not spending the money on commuting. They're not spending the money on the clothes they need for the office.
Right.
And we like it because we're getting more hours out of our people.
That's the thing. People work longer hours when they're working from home, and that's the irony. You never would think that.
We can pick up the hour that took them to get to work and the hour it takes them to get home.
Yeah, exactly. And then some, because some people just keep working. They want to catch up or get ahead and all that kind of stuff.
So as John said, I'm 82 years old. But even at my age, I still find rolling out of bed in the morning, no problem. The hard part is getting up off the floor.
You're what, 85 or 86?
85 now. I'll be 86 in October.
Wow, God bless. 85 years old. You look amazing. You look terrific. And what's the secret? What's the secret to that, would you say?
I remember my grandson, who was home from college at Syracuse, was reminding me of when he was small, I used to take him mall walking with me. And one day we got separated, so he went up to the security guard, told him I was lost. I mean, he was 4 or 5 years old. He knew where he was. Obviously, I was the one who was lost. So the guard said, "What's his name?" He said, "Poppy." He said, "What's he like?" He said, "He's old, he's tall." I mean, the guy was trying to figure out where I might be. He said, "No, kid, what's he like?" And Ben thought about it for a minute. He said, "Grey Goose vodka and women with big boobs." So that's what's kept me alive.
That's
Ben swears he never said that.
that's the recipe for longevity, right?
There you go.
Grey Goose vodka and big boobs. I think that I could survive on that. I think that would be so. You got into comedy.
Very honestly, let's talk about it. It's having a positive attitude. I mean, let's face it. I have my medical issues. Everybody says to me, that's why I use what I did. I mean, when I go to the hospital and I go there, unfortunately, too often for procedures and tests, and people will say to me when I walk in, "How are you?" And my answer is, if I was any better, would I be in a hospital? You know, all those things they promised us as we were getting older, oh, the golden years. Let me tell you right now, they were lying. I mean, let me give you an example. My wife went through a physical. The doctor said to her, "You're in your 60s, you have some medical conditions. You still have intercourse?" She said, "Wait a minute, I'll be right back." She ran to the waiting room door. She yelled out, "Arnie, do we still have intercourse?" Everybody's staring at me. He said, "How many times do I have to tell you? We have Blue Cross."
You started stand-up comedy when you were 81 years old. Is
Yep.
when you. What was it through? Like, you figure you lived a lifetime at this point. What made you decide that this is something I want to do?
Honestly, I was watching AGT, saw the comics, and I said, "I'm as funny as they are." So I decided I was going to go into comedy. I called my daughter. I said, "I need you to drive me to St. John's." When I had told her I was going to go into comedy. And she said, "What are you going there for?" I said, "Because I'm trying out for AGT." She said, "I thought when you said you were going to get started in comedy, you would start with retirement homes, not AGT." True story.
Wow.
And they liked what I did, but they said that I should, work on it and so forth. So they told me to come back the following year. Luckily, I was able to get through an agent. I was able to get, so I didn't have to go in with a mob. And there were 5 producers who watched me. And they all laughed. They thought it was great, but I didn't go any further.
Right.
I guess I don't have enough of a backstory.
Well, I think you do. I think you have an amazing backstory. I think your story is great. Like just the fact that you've come and you just started doing stand up in your 80s, and then being funny, and now making your way through the Long Island comedy scene. You've been working in Manhattan, and I'm sure you've traveled.
I worked in Miami. I was at the Boca Black Box, which is a great comedy store down there. I've worked at Army bases in New Jersey. And then I actually headlined with the Veterans Comedy Assault, which is made up of all veterans at Mohegan Sun.
Wow.
Did that twice.
So not only did you start late, but within 4 years, you're already headlining, you're already touring the country.
And by the way, men are always worried about size. Let me just tell you something. According to the latest studies, any woman will be completely satisfied with just 3 1/4 inches. If you don't believe me, when you get home, measure your American Express card.
Did you ever think, like when you were in your 50s, that you would be doing this now?
Not at all. Never thought of it. I wish I had, because I'm enjoying myself.
Right.
2 things happened that really helped me. Shortly after I started doing comedy in 2017, I won the AARP Funniest Comedian Contest. And as a result, I've gotten a lot of shows at big theaters, where they seat 450, 500 people.
Right.
Which is great. I love it. And then in 2018, Newsday did a 3-page feature article about me. So between those 2, that's what helped me get to where I'm still working on getting there, get to the next step. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think you're way on the way. I mean, you are hilarious, man. I watched a bunch of your stand up on that's online. I think you're very funny, very well written stuff. You know, I just think you got everything you needed to go. Now I'm just trying to think. Are you now more fearless than you would have been if you went up on stage earlier in life? Like, do you feel like
I don't
now?
think so. I'll tell you why. When I was interviewed for the article in Newsday, it was at Theater 3 in Smithtown. There were about 450 people in the audience. And the reporter said, "Don't you get nervous?" I said, "Why?" They said, "Look at all the people that are here." And I said, and this is true, I said, "Look, the way I look at it, I'm still in my friend's or my living room telling jokes like I always did. It's just as a bigger living room. That's all. That's how I look at it."
It's all the mindset, right? It's all the way you got to think.
Exactly. And, you know, people say to me, you know, "Why do I do this?" Very honestly, my feeling is if I can get a person laughing and take their minds off their troubles or their worries, even if it's for a few minutes, it's worth every minute of it. And I have a lot of older people who come up to me and, you know, they tell me that, first of all, they don't believe my age. So I have to take out my birth certificate. No, I don't. No, but you know, it's just a good feeling. And unfortunately, I only have one friend left from my days. And now I've got a whole new group of friends as a result of the comedy. Just happened to me again. I was telling somebody that lately, whenever I take off my mask, people tell me I look like Hugh Hefner. I thought that was pretty cool until I realized he's dead.
Does it make you feel younger, put a little bit of pep in your step when you know it's a show day?
I don't step, I shuffle.
There you go.
Yeah, I shuffle a little bit faster. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No, really, it just makes me feel good. It really does. There's nothing like getting up there and getting that first laugh. You know that.
Yeah.
Okay? You get that first laugh and your adrenaline starts working.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
And then,
And
like
my
you said,
feeling is if I can't get the first laugh within the first 30 seconds, there's something wrong. And that reminds me, by the way, it's been 40 years since Bruce Jenner won the Olympic gold. So to commemorate that, Wheaties is putting his face back on the new cereal, and now advertises it's now without nuts. I was really honored about this. I was asked, they're doing a concert with two different bands on Veterans Day, on the 11th. It's for Tunnels to Towers. And it's a fundraiser for them. And I was asked if I would do comedy between the two bands, which really made me feel great.
yeah.
So I was told I could do my normal material, which really isn't that dirty, but I'm going to clean it up for that because they're going to send the whole tape over to Tunnels to Towers for them to look at. And it really made me feel good. So things like that really make you feel great that people would think of you to do something like that.
Yeah. And to be able to contribute to those type of things and be a part of that healing process, and something like Tunnels for Towers, it's a huge organization that, the foundation. Yeah. So yeah, I would love, when is that? I would love to come out and check that out. Is it around here?
It's going to be in Bohemia at the American Legion Hall in Bohemia on the 11th of September, Veterans Day. And it's going to be, I think they're having a buffet plus the show. They're not charging that much, I don't think. I think it's $30 including the buffet.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Everybody should go out there and support Tunnel to Towers, and also, and then they get the show. They get two bands, and then they get to see Art Schill live, and get a great comedy experience out of it as well.
Thanks for saying that.
Yes, sir.
Well, one thing about getting older, you learn the difference between right and wrong.
I was at a party recently, I had a little bit too much to drink, so I took a bus home. Pretty surprising, since I've never driven a bus before.
Now, your writing, like I said, I love your style. You got the kind of the one-liners. You got a really great stage presence, a great cadence. What goes into the writing process for you? Are you always writing, or is it just?
I write every single day. And then what I've been doing is, usually it works, not always, but I'll put up something that I think is funny every day on Facebook. I'll see how many people respond to it, and I'll use that as new material if I get enough responses. Enough responses mean a dozen or more.
Okay.
But it's funny because I used something 2 weeks ago, last weekend, that got 30 hits, and it bombed. It just didn't play out at all in person.
What was it? You meant?
Trying to think of what it was. I can't remember. I struck it from my mind. One of the things I tried using got a halfway decent response, not as good as I thought. I said when I was younger, I used to drive a lot business, and usually it was in these areas that in the boonies. And one day I was pulled over by a policeman, and he said I was speeding. I said, "No, I'm not speeding. I'm just keeping up with traffic." He looked down the road. He said, "I don't see any traffic." I said, "That's how far behind I am." I thought it was funny. People thought it was funny. Didn't get as big a response as I thought it would.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great joke.
I thought so.
Yeah, I was just thinking
The
that.
audience didn't.
Yeah. So
But it's funny because you know this as well as I do. It isn't only the material; it's often the audience. When I first got out of the Air Force, I worked up the Catskills, up at the Concord, on the social staff. And I remember Tony Bennett appeared as the headliner, and he just bombed. Believe it or not, Tony Bennett bombed. He sang about 4 songs and walked off because the audience was not receptive at all.
wow.
A month later, he came back. They wouldn't let him off the stage. So it was the audience in his case.
I used to have a similar thing when I was doing stand-up. I would have my same set. I would do the same set night after night pretty much and just kind of polish it up. But that same set for one night, I don't know if it's the day of the week, if it's the time, if it's the way the moon is, if it's the audience, how it works out. But one night that set will kill. Then that same exact set the next night will completely bomb.
Yeah.
And then it would do mediocre, then it would kill again. And it's just hard to find how do you just constantly keep it on top,
Well, it's funny because I have about 10 bits that I use in every show because they're always guaranteed to get laughs.
Right.
One of them really didn't get as big a laugh as I always get. And I said, is it me? Is it delivery? Or maybe it was the audience. I don't know. Because it always gets a big laugh.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's so weird. You never know what's, like what night is it going to all hit, or if something that's guaranteed flops, and then does that mess with your head? Does it mess with your head for the rest of the set?
No, I won't let it.
There you go.
I won't let it.
But my wife was always very considerate. Whenever she would go away for a while, to make sure I didn't miss her, she would program Alexa to nag me every day. That one didn't go up. I'll take that out.
Now, would you say you do better with older audiences, or you do better with younger audiences? Or does that matter?
It doesn't really matter to me. It's funny. The show I did about a week ago, it was an outdoor in a tent. It was about 25 people in their 20s and about the same number of people in their 50s and older. And I didn't know how I was really doing with the younger people. And afterwards, they were telling me how funny I was. They said they couldn't stop laughing. I mean, the older people, I heard the laughter.
Right.
But, some of the younger people, I saw them laughing, but I didn't get the big guffaws that I got out of the older people. But they told me afterwards they thought it was really funny. They couldn't stop laughing, they said.
That's awesome.
So, you always read the audience, but when you're dealing with a younger group as well as an older group in the same audience, it's a fine line you have to walk.
What would you say you target is your target audience right now?
I would say they're in their 30s to 60s.
Yeah.
That would be my best target audience.
Yeah. That's a good range.
Yeah, because and that's what you usually see at the clubs anyway.
Right, exactly. That's the people that are going to the club. Those are people that want to see comedy, and will like, not the TikTok generation,
Yeah. When you do the TikTok generation, I'm not with the TikTok. The millennials I have a problem with. No, I really don't. But when you do the theater shows, it's usually an older audience. I would say in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Right. Yeah.
That's what usually comes to the theaters, as opposed to the comedy clubs.
Right. How do you rebound if and when you especially in the beginning when you're trying out new stuff and it bombs? How do you rebound mentally from that stuff?
Well, it's funny. I did a line that I thought was really funny. I said I used it at the end of a set at a theater show, and I thought it was funny. I got good response online, but it really didn't work at all. And that was, I said it's not what's the word that where somebody doesn't, I can't remember the word I used, but I said it's sort of funny, let's say, to get pregnant on a pull-out couch. Okay, and I thought it was funny, but it didn't hit at all. And luckily, when I'm using a new piece, I put it between one that I know is funny and one that I think is even funnier. And I know is funnier rather, because I've used it.
Right.
So the producer of the show, Paul, said to me afterwards, he said, that one that you used didn't get over. He said, but I'm glad you used that funny one that you use at the end all the time.
Right.
So that one always gets, I mean, my ending one is one that always gets the biggest applause and laughter and whistles.
Right. Yeah, that's it. It's important to try out new stuff, and you're doing it right. You're putting the new stuff right before you're guaranteed stuff. And
I put it right after another one that has a big laugh.
Yeah.
So I sandwich it between those two.
I hope you didn't drop that joke, the pull-out couch joke, because I think that's funny. I think that's got some legs.
Well, I think so too, but it just didn't go over. Maybe it was just the wrong audience.
Maybe it went over their heads. Yeah, it might have went over there.
I think for younger people, it would have really gotten a big laugh.
Yeah. What do you have a so when you say that joke, I think it's funny that people when somebody gets pregnant on a pull-out couch, they might not get it right away because you got to put it all together in your head with the pulling out, all that. I don't know. I think it's hilarious. I I think maybe if you put a joke similar to that, but right before that, like another joke about sex or pulling out, and then follow up with that pull-out couch joke, then people will get it because then it's already registered. Try that.
Good thought.
Yeah.
And what I normally do, I mean, when I get something that bombs like that, I'll say one of two things. I'll say, okay, I'm going to rip that one up. Or I'll say, wait a minute, pull out couch. 3:00 this morning, you're going to wake up and say, oh, pull out couch. Now I got it.
Exactly. But
and
yeah, I think
the laugh.
Right. It gets the laugh later on. Yeah. That's good stuff.
But getting back to the age situation, just because you get old doesn't mean that you can't follow directions. I bought a stick deodorant for the first time the other day, followed the directions to a T. It said, take off cap, shove up bottom. So now it hurts like hell when I walk.
What do you say to people that want to get into comedy but are reluctant or putting it off, or they're older also and they always thought about that they were funny, what advice do you have for people like that are on the fence about it and that want to, it's their dream, you know what I mean, but they're scared, like, because life is short, and you gotta live every day to its fullest, and I think you are definitely an influence and an inspiration in a lot of ways, not only for getting started, in your 80s and getting so far in, and all the achievements you've had, already, but also, the fact that you're happy and you're doing it. What do you say to people that look at you and they want to do it also, but they don't know how?
You just said it. You just said life is short. If you're not going to try it, you're never going to find out whether you can do it. Okay? And you're going to regret it constantly saying, oh, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Okay? So actually, Veterans Comedy Assault is part of Project 9 Line, which is for veterans. And Project 9 Line helps vets get involved in, if they want to learn how to paint, if they want to learn music. We do a class on stand-up comedy for any veteran who wants to try getting involved in it. And then we help them and we eventually put them on a show. So my feeling is, if you're going to try doing comedy, you should go to a class. You really should. And you learn a lot from it. I did. And I think I learned a lot. I felt more comfortable of going up on the stage for the first time. And I knew what I was going to say and what I was going to do. And luckily, the very first show I did, I basically got a standing ovation.
Wow.
Yeah, I was amazed, but it just felt great.
And then it's addictive after that.
Yep. And I'm still using some of the same material I used back then on my very first show, because the material that got the biggest laughs, I've always used. In the morning of their 50th wedding anniversary, they're having breakfast, and his wife said to him, gee, 50 years ago, we were eating breakfast on our honeymoon. He said, yeah, but the difference was we were sitting there naked. So with a smile on her face, she said to him, well, let's do that again. So they took off their PJs and continued to eat. And she looked at him and she said, even after all these years, honey, this still makes my nipples hot. And I said, I don't doubt that. One of them is in your oatmeal.
Are you ready for some rapid fire questions, Art?
My brain isn't, I am, but my brain isn't.
Who is the funniest comedian of all time?
Buddy Hackett.
You get out of here, you fat bastard.
What is the best song ever written?
The song from Casablanca. You must remember this. So swishes as a kiss.
Sam, I thought I told you never to play.
Is it better to be loved or feared?
In my case, love. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Who is the most famous person you've ever met?
Wow, I've met a lot. I was friendly with Liza Minnelli when she was a kid. I used to give her sister and brother rides around the Dakota on my back, piggyback ride.
Who's this little guest of ours right here?
Liza Minnelli.
Hello, Liza. You want to shake hands with Art?
If your life had a slogan, what would it be?
Never give up, rather, because things are going to get better no matter what. If they're down, they'll get better. If they're good, they're going to even better.
If you could be a superhero, what would your name be, and what would be your superpower?
I think I've already met my superpower that I really wanted, and that's bringing laughter to people. So I guess it would be the laughing idiot, something like that would be my super name.
I love it. And then finally, if you had a time machine, would you go back in time or would you go into the future?
I'd like to make some adjustments to what I did that I know I did wrong in the past. So I'd like to go back.
Very nice. Art Schill, you are an amazing man. I'm a big fan of you. I can't wait to come see you live at this Tunnels to Towers show.
I also have some shows going on, in case I can advertise a little bit.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
I'm going to be doing another show on the 25th of September in again at the American Legion in Bohemia. I'm doing a show at McGuire's on the 10th of September.
Oh, nice.
And I'm doing a lot of, I've been asked to do birthday parties for older people, 50, 60. So those are private.
Nice.
I don't know what other shows. I know I have some other shows coming up, but I can't remember what they were.
And where can people find you and follow you online?
The best thing to do is I'll usually post things. If I have a show coming up, I'll post it on Facebook.
And that's Art Schill. Everybody can find
Yep.
you at Art Schill. Excellent.
There's an old, do you have a minute for an old joke?
Yeah, of course.
An old joke. These two elderly men are sitting, talking, and their wives are in the kitchen. And one says to the other, "We went to a restaurant the other day. It was the best restaurant we ever went to." He said, "What was the name of the restaurant?" He says, "It was called what's the name of that flower with the red flower and the thorns?" He said, "Oh, Rose." He said, "Yeah." He says, "Rose, what was the name of the restaurant we went to?"
That's great. Good stuff. Art
An old
Schill,
joke.
you're the best, my friend. Thank you again.
Thank
And
you for having me.
yeah, I'd love to have you back on when we're in the studio too, over at Governor's. We'll have you come in on there.
Absolutely,
That'd be
anytime.
terrific. Yes, sir. That'd be great. You're the best. Thanks again. Art Schill, ladies and gentlemen.